My name is Lanecia Rouse Tinsley, and welcome to this session of Art of the City, a virtual contemporary arts education program sponsored by the Center for Engaged Research and Collaborative Learning at Rice University, where we partner with Houston-based artists to provide insight into their creative process, work, and artistic journey to enhance attention and approaches to addressing the social, cultural, historical, and political dimensions of life in Houston. In this session, we are in conversation with Bria Lauren, a Texas native, born and raised in 3rd Ward, Houston. The South is a sacred and intricate part of her work as a visual storyteller, healer, and queer Black woman who in her practice lays bare some of the complex negotiations involved with coming to terms with intersectional realities as an act of resistance. She travels through time using 35 millimeter medium format and motion picture film to bridge social and political gaps within her community, to communicate the true essence of one's identity and truth without censorship. After watching this conversation, we invite you to check out the art making prompt provided by Bria. The prompt is informed by Bria's own practice in hopes that it sparks your imagination, your creativity, and encourages you in your own exploration of contemporary social and political realities in your local context. Without further ado, I want to say welcome, Bria, and thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you. You put a little flavor on my bio, Lanecia. I picked that up. That was a little.
I am so excited about this conversation. I have been following your work for a few years, and just in reading up and catching up on the beauty that you are putting out into this world, the truth you're putting out into this world, I was like, let me get this introduction right. So honored to be in conversation with you. And we're just going to go ahead and just dive right on in. I want to know, Bria, when did you realize that you were an artist, and what has your artistic journey been to now, to this particular moment? How did you get here?
Thank you for all that. That was so beautiful. To be real, I know, I didn't come into, I began with shooting on my iPhone. And I had a very simple need in mind, and I was tired of, in my own world, I was feeling very just moving about the world and not feeling as if I had any type of voice or any type of purpose, really. And it was hard. I felt, as if I was in college, I was majoring in criminal justice. I was at TSU. I had a minor in early childhood development. I was so far into that I was in debt that I was okay, I have to finish my degree. But I knew that it was just something missing in my life. At the time, I was blogging on Tumblr. I have been blogging on Tumblr since 2008. And I discovered Humans of New York. And I remember seeing Humans of New York and being like, wow, and reading all these different and thinking to myself, one, I read a lot of the people, it was a lot of Black women, elderly people that reminded me of my mother, that reminded me of people in my community. And that sparked me going home to 3rd Ward with my iPhone and a tape recorder and a little notepad. And it was just me asking people, tell me about yourself. Who are you? And I don't realize that although I was talking to other people, I was somewhat speaking to myself too. And in that moment, I saw how just want the same thing. People in my community want to be heard, want to be seen, want to feel valued. And it was the thing that I wanted as well. And so I think the word artist became it was difficult for me to navigate that. I feel like when people call you an artist or put a label on your practice or anything like that, it put like this, I felt like insecure by it all, really. It was like, I'm self-taught. I didn't come here for any of that. You know, I'm just kind of like here to heal, really. And it was intimidating. You know, I remember feeling intimidated by you. Like you were just, you saw me at Project Row and we had a conversation. At the time I was still shooting on my iPhone, and you, whatever you saw at that time and what I was doing, and being like, hey, you know, I want you to come talk about this amazing work that you're doing in your community. And I remember just feeling like, oh my God, what? So it's taken me a while to accept. I think I've kind of down that when I think of the term artist, I think of God in any sense of like someone that is making something from spirit, from with integrity, with purpose, and having to use either your hands or your mind or, you know, a tool of some kind, which mine happens to be photography. And that makes you an artist when you're doing it to create something for the betterment of humanity. And I think when I began to see myself and accept that I was doing that, it felt a little more easier to say, yeah, like, okay, I can get with that. You can call me an artist. But yeah, it took a while to arrive there.
Yeah, I love that. You're not shooting with your iPhone anymore.
No.
I mean, yeah. You are choosing the analog route, which is slow, which is tangible, which I like. It's riskier to shoot with a film camera. Unlike, you know, it's really pretty much the opposite of what film has become from a majority of people, where it's like accessible digital, so it's fast, it's quick. We can take multiple pictures of the same thing and delete if we don't like it. You can't do that with what you're choosing to do. You're choosing a different path for your craft. And so I'm curious of like, why? What does that mean for you? What has that process taught you? Yeah, why?
I feel like I always get like, this was the question that I saw and it made me a little emotional looking at it. Film has given me so much, you know, when I think about spirit, I've arrived to a place to where now I've personified film. I don't see it as like a thing or like something that's separate from spirit, from me. It feels very much like how I would imagine a mother to be with their child. You know, you can fail. You can, which is hearing you say like it's hard, you know, like sometimes I've shot in rolls and I've forgotten to set my shutter speed or something. Or I've, you know, gotten rolls and they were completely black because I forgot to do one thing. And it showed me very early of how much I didn't have compassion for myself and how I didn't trust myself because I would be so hard. You know, you have a shoot and you know, do work and then you get it back and then you realize like, damn, I forgot to do X, Y, and Z or something small. It's really a science, you know, to say that like, shout out to Miss Carrie at Yates, my chemistry teacher. I hated science, but to think that like I'm in the world of film, which is so, it's so, you have to be intentional. You have to like use your brain. You have to be patient. You can't just like jump into it, you know, just how you would with a baby, with a child. It's taught me to develop, to really understand what care really means and what forgiveness really means and what intentionality really means when it comes to work and printmaking, making an image. And yeah, I mean, I kind of came into film on accident, really. Like, I had a film camera at home and it sat there forever. And I picked it up and played, went out with some friends and just played around, put a roll in there. And Saeed, who is I hope he's still there. The last time that I went there during the pandemic, he was in the hospital, but Saeed is in Houston, an elderly Indian man, beautiful. He taught me about lighting. He taught me about exposure. He taught me about how to load a roll of film, first little Pentax, little camera. But being with him, getting him teaching me and then going out to apply it. And once I got the work bag, something so light, being out with friends, but I love the dust particles that was on the film, on the negatives. I love being able to look at an image through like a negative, something I had never thought about doing before. And it felt like me. It felt like someone that is so flawed, but so beautiful, so delicate, sometimes misunderstood. If you don't really know how to work it, if you don't really know like the little ins and outs of who I am. And I just felt so connected, being able to like be hands-on with something that reminded me of my life, reminded me of myself. And it allowed me to kind of take a few steps back, and really take my time with myself.
So with film, you still could do like digital. So you could put it on a CD and load it up to your computer and phone and put it out into the world, or you can process it, right? Like, do you process? Do you spend time in the dark room?
So sad. I don't know what it is about the chemicals, but I am allergic to the chemicals. When I first started developing, I started at home. So I had like a little, bought a kit off eBay. One of my closest friends, Latifah, who's now in Saudi Arabia, she taught me how to develop film. Someone who grew up with film, grew up like doing all of this that I'm just now being introduced to. So I bought a little kit online, and when I started at home, I noticed that I would have little outbreaks here and there when I would develop, but like a kid, that's one thing that it does too. Like, it brings out like this childlike, I don't care about acne, I don't care about whatever, and I kept doing it. But what led me to the dark room was I actually had applied for a grant. It was like a national photography grant. And this was like, I think, 2.5, maybe almost 3. And with the submission, you could like pay like $5 or something like that to get a free photography review. And it was anonymous. I really wish I knew who it was so I can like talk to this person today, but I had never seen someone write work in that way. And to me at that time, in a nutshell, they were saying like, you have it, like you're really onto something. But I was of course self-taught, and it was like, there are things that you need to learn, but you're onto something. And that prompted me to want to take a class, because I had never taken a class before up until that point. And in my living room, trying to figure out all these different things. And I met Amy Blakemore at the LaSalle. Fell in love with Amy. I was there for 2 semesters, but literally the chemicals got so bad that I couldn't return. And so it was so sad. Like my second semester, Amy gave me a scholarship, which was really like, in that moment, it felt like it was a completely different level of like, okay, it's one thing to develop film, to shoot film, but I could be in the dark room. I would be in there for like 8-10 hours at a time. And
wow.
I forgot that I had been there that long. I miss it. I miss it much. It's nothing like it. You know, you're having to, it will be days where I would be in there and I would be crying. I would be upset because something so small of trying to, like, you know, black and white, you know, if your highlights are blown out, and then like trying to learn like the little nicks and nannies to, like, you know, getting exposure right, trying to expose a negative onto a piece of paper and for it to look like what the negative looks like. That process taught me again, okay, it was just a whole new portal into like one, creativity, being an artist, and like having to like think beyond my boundaries. So yeah, I miss it. It was so beautiful. It's funny that you asked me that because I made a post the other day. During my time there, I have like select prints that I ended up like gifting to people that made the prints possible. And now people have been asking me, do I have prints? And I'm like, I gave them away.
That's amazing. Oh, what a gift. And, you know, gosh, thank you so much for sharing that, what that process is like for you. And I imagine I'm listening to you talk about the moments where, like, the riskiness of film, where the thing, like, the image just doesn't come out, is like an added kind of, because you document moments, like people. You're not photographing like a flower on the table. You are documenting like these moments, and mostly with Black hood women and mothers is your specific focus right now, which is incredibly dope and beautiful and stunning. And I hope our viewers take a minute to really look at your work and experience your work, because I feel you're able to accomplish something that's not really easy, Bria. And I noticed this, like, it's like 6 years ago when I first saw your work, that you create a space that feels so honest and vulnerable, like between you and the humans that you are photographing. And right now they happen to be Black hood women, mostly Black hood women and mothers. But that space of just like trust and vulnerability without objectifying them, without censoring. I mean, I think I read you were in Crown magazine, and that interview where I loved where she says, like, you are just photographing the everyday textures of these women, of their lives, and capturing that in such a beautiful way that honors them. I really would like for you to talk about the how you do that. So we talked some about the technical. I'd love to hear more about like your creative process and like how you create that space. Why are you choosing to focus your creative attention right now on Black hood women and mothers? I mean, and I say right now that this may be your work. I just want you to talk. I want to listen. I'm so curious about the heart of this, you know, and how you do this. And, you know, because documentation photography as well is really hard for some people to enter into, because they're just like, how do I even ask another human for me to like photograph them? You know, like, how do you even approach? I guess people use subjects as the technical term, but I feel like you don't see the humans you photograph as subjects, but as human beings. So anyway, whatever you have to share, any insight you're willing to gift us with, I want to listen.
Thank you for that. I love talking about this part of my work because it's like my life. And I will say that one thing that I feel like I'm always arriving. New births, new realizations about life, myself and my work, my practice. I remember before the pandemic, I did like a call, like calling out, like, you know, where the hood women at, you know, in the South, like, I want to hear from you. I want to work with you. And then it like dawned on me, one, it didn't really work. I connected with two women. I received people from, people I didn't know, people I never heard of, were emailing me. And I'm like, okay, but how do I like vet, So I like came up with like this little Q&A kind of thing and like wanting to get to know them. And my spirit was like, good and damn well that this is not how this works. The two women that I connected with, one was Jamie, out of all the women that hit me up. Jamie, who we grew up together. We were on the same cheerleading team at Thompson. We went to elementary. Ganny, her grandmother, everybody in Yellowstone went to Ganny for daycare. She has a daycare in Yellowstone. And Jamie and I, we reconnected as adults. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so to hear from Jamie, it was so easy to connect with her. The other girl was Madison, who her sister, Jade, who was murdered maybe like 2 years ago. I shot Jade. Jade worked with my sister. And so when I met Madison, it was like, I knew her. And I think what dawned on me is I'm able to do what I do because I have a relationship with the people that I'm photographing. It feels the way that it does because I'm not just at random selecting people. And I think what people will be surprised at is I don't shoot often. I don't have like doing the work that I do, the work that people have seen online often, because I have to have a rapport with these people. Ganny trusted me to photograph of the elderly lady sitting on her throne, as I say. That's Jamie's grandmother. And you know how Black people are. If my grandbaby trusts you to be here, I trust you to be here.
Yes.
And I think one thing that I don't take for granted is how easy it is for me to connect Black women. I think there's like this like kinship that's like unspoken when I'm at home, when I'm in Third Ward, when I'm, I haven't done a lot of motherhood work. I've primarily worked with women that I know, that I've broken bread, women that like, I just happen to have my camera, but me and you, we're healing through conversation and talking, and I'm just watching you do you, and you trust me to watch you do you, because and that connects that bond. And so that's how it is. I think I've accepted that, and it's kind of helped me feel a little bit more rooted in my work, and a little more like I can take a little, the heaviness off of like, connect with the women that you know. And then see where that door opens, From me knowing Jamie and connecting with Jamie, I met her grandmother. That's just how it works. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that and I think too, I can admit the other day I was in the shower and I thought that me wanting to do like this little call, kind of like put a call out and connect with hood women in the South or connecting with mothers. And what came up for me is you trying to avoid the work, the hard work. The hard work. It's heavy sometimes to be in spaces with people that you know and that you love, because you're seen and you're exposed, and it's different than just like, okay, you Black, you hood, you from the South, I don't know you, but let's meet up.
Right.
That's not my process, and it will never be that. And it took me to do that to realize like the pandemic really taught me that too, because I had to sit down and really like reflect and really think about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, what I want out of this work, what I want out of like how I'm approaching this work. And so, yeah, it's me doing my work as I'm doing this. Like I'm doing my healing work to return back home, to be photographing Black hood women in a community that I once wanted to run away from, because it was so hard to live there. It was so hard to live in a home with a Black mother that didn't know how to love me or my sisters. Like, that's really tough. So to be able to return back home, it goes hand in hand. And so I get to heal and they get to heal too.
So would you say that's your why, Bria?
And I would. I think I just realized that, like, yeah, that's why I'm doing it. I have to do it. I need to do it. And it's for me. It's for me too. And for women that look in the mirror and may not look like me, but look like me. You know, we can get in a room and we can dance all day, get it. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, and just thinking about what you said leads me to my next question of curiosity, is that you use the language of, you describe yourself as a visual activist and a visual healer. And I don't think I've heard that language before. Someone in photography used that, and so that caught my attention right away. And in just claiming that as part of your identity, to me, it shows that you clearly believe your art can change someone and something. Where does that belief come from, and how does it impact what you create and how you work, like how you move?
That belief came from the spaces that I've been in with women, with queer people, with Black women, with Black mothers, and seeing what happens like in that space between us, which is what my goal, even though you're not there, I want you to feel what it took to arrive to what you're looking at. And there's so much healing in that, freedom in that. For, you know, I think about, man, Danny Walker, shout out to Danny. Her and I photographed her, and we had a conversation about, you know, desirability and childhood and growing up and not seeing like a healthy dynamic between, you know, a relationship and your mother and your father. And that made me think about, you know, my mother and how I grew up and how I saw my mother love, how I saw her engage with other people, with men, with women, and how that impacted me and how it impacted how I saw myself and how I saw my value and how I saw my worth and where I found my worth. And we both connected on it. It was a moment. And I was only looking through my camera. And as I'm looking through my camera, we're both crying. And I just looked at her and I took the photo. And when I think of, thinking to what you're asking me, I think of moments like that. Yeah. Even if like the world on the outside never sees it, never like sees any of my work, what's happening within that space of me making it is what's at core and is what matters the most to me. And I see what space and I see how myself and these women and how we're literally healing together and learning from one another and learning how to look in the mirror, like accept ourselves and love ourselves. And the activism part, when I think of Black hood women, I think of my mother. I think of like being in third ward and like really being raised to like get out. You know, the world loves like a good get out story. The world loves to, you know, to hear the Black woman who's in like academia and she goes off and she's successful and like, but she was from, you know, the dirty parts of Chicago or the South Side. You know, love that. But what about the women that didn't leave? What about the women that, because of who they are, because they're not willing to code switch or adapt, or their only purpose in this life is to be a matriarch of their family and take care of their kids and be a grandmother? What if it isn't to go out and make all the money and travel the world and do X, Y, and Z? They're perfectly fine and happy and fulfilled with what they have. So we only get to see them when people want to, you know, object them, or have a problem when I see these women photographed, but it looks like you're photographing them ID, but you don't know who they are. But I do, because I am one. And I think it took me a while to be so honest about that part of myself in my work, because I literally was raised and taught to, okay, you got to clean up. If you want to be successful in this world, if you want to be able to make something out of yourself in this world, if you want to work the room, you got to know how to clean it up. And I don't want to do that no more. I want to show up as I am. People want to be Black hood women because how free they are. Even Black people who are not hood, they want the nails, they want the baby hair, they want everything because these women are superheroes. They saying, I don't care about what nobody think of me. I'm gonna walk outside my house. I'm okay with walking to Eddie Lynn's and getting what I gotta get and taking care of my kids and living on Section 8, but like, you can't tell me nothing. And I don't want what they think I should want. And I'm not gonna change how my vernacular, how I talk, or how I walk into a room. And they end up like, their community ends up being like, that's their safe haven. That's where they feel the most safe to be who they are. And that's why a lot of them don't leave. My mama hasn't left. I don't blame her. I don't blame her. I used to think like, oh my God, I don't want to be small like that. I want to leave. But the beauty and the life, the roses that are in these communities and that exist within these families and in these dynamics and these women, you can't get that nowhere. Only if you pull up and you got to sit in a room with these women. And I want people to look at my work and know that I am in the room. I'm with them. I'm not on the outside of the experience. I'm in it. That's what matters most to me. Yeah.
Do you think that's important for photographers in general to like be in it and not outside of, because some of our viewers may want to explore the medium of photography as a way of looking at some of the questions they have about the world they inhabit, you know? What advice or wisdom would you, like, or one truth you'd want to like speak into those who are viewing? And in many ways, maybe you've carved out your own path too. So I want you to teach us, Bria. No, you have, like, you've carved out your own path. You've created your own language. So much wisdom. So what insight, what truth would you want to speak to? You can even imagine it's like your 16-year-old creative self, you know, like if you could drop some truth or wisdom as you're holding the camera in your hand, what would you say?
My 16-year-old self, She didn't think she was creative. I don't think she thought that she had anything really to offer herself or the world. I would tell her and people, period, you know, that who you are, how you look, how you talk, where you come from, everything you need derives from. If you can like get past and asking yourself, you know, how do you want to create a better world for you? Not the world at large, but when you think of community, you know, where does that begin for you? Is it at home? Is it, you know, I don't know, outdoors? Is it in nature? Where is home, and how can you create a better world? Working with what you have, accepting who you are, and believing that you are enough, and how you contribute to the world in your own special way is how, at least for me, you can, if the world was to end today or tomorrow was your last day, then you know that like you were honest and you gave what you had.
Mm-hmm. Bria, do you ever think about legacy with your work? Do you think about that?
I think I do now. Mm-hmm. I think I don't think people know that I do a lot of I've been like doing a lot of research for a long time, definitely with my family, and wanting to get to know like where I come from and who I come from. And I recently found out about my Aunt Cecile Harrison, who was an openly gay woman. She had a partner. She was a professor at TSU. She wrote books and she was an activist. And from what I hear, you know, she ran her mouth and didn't care what anyone had to say. And when I found out about her and just looked more into like her life, for years I've been like, where did I come from? I look around and I'm like, I don't see how I ended up being who I am and where I am. But I want to continue that. I want to, I think of the South, you know, like right now, Megan Thee Stallion is like, man, we are like, she's like the president for the South, you know, for Texas. But I want to contribute to that by being like another Black woman who is respected and honored for the work that she did, for the work that I gave back to my community. I want to create work that is timeless, you know, that when my time comes and when I transition, you know, off into wherever I end up going, that I'll have someone after me, you know, to look at my work and to look at me, how I look at Aunt Cecile. So yeah, I think about it now. And it feels good. I can definitely see it. Like, I can see Bria Lauren, you know, people knowing who I am and knowing who I am by me being like 100%, you know, true to who I am and doing work that is my life work, is my heart work, is my healing work. So yeah.
That's good. Thank you for telling, for being a storyteller that moves through this world with such intentionality and so much integrity and just truth. Whenever I see you moving in a space, you are who you are at all times, which then opens up space for people to do the same. So thank you for the stories that you're telling. Look forward to seeing and the legacy that you'll leave in this world just kind of develop and unfold over time. And I'm really grateful that you were part of this project. So thank you, Bria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.